Welcome to Ku-ring-gai Council's Public Forum. The Public Forum is an opportunity to share your views on any issues on the Council meeting agenda, on any other general matters that are important to you. It provides an opportunity for councillors to hear directly from the community, understand the needs and concerns of constituents, and make more informed decisions. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emergent. I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here this evening. Before we begin, I would like to outline a few procedures in relation to this evening's public forum. I want to remind everyone that this is a public forum and we must all be respectful of each other. I remind councillors of their oath or affirmation of office made under section 233A of the Act and printed at the front of the business paper. All attendees must comply with the Code of Meeting Practice and other relevant council codes, policies and procedures. This meeting is being recorded and the webcast will be published to Council's website. Councillors, council staff and speakers will be shown on camera. Attendees must refrain from engaging in disorderly conduct, publicly alleged breaches of the Council's Code of Conduct, or making other potentially defamatory statements. Any statements made and actions taken by individuals are those of the individuals making, and they are not endorsed or supported by Council. Councillors, council staff and members of the public must ensure that mobile phones are turned to silent during the forum. Councillors and council staff must declare and manage any conflicts of interest that they may have about any item of business that is on the agenda this evening. A few reminders for our speakers this evening. There is only one. Speakers cannot use or present any props, audio or visual material. Any written material must be lodged when registering or handed to staff. Each speaker has 3 minutes to address council. A chime will sound when you have 30 seconds left to speak. If you have a lot to say, I encourage you to submit a written submission. Each councillor may ask a maximum of 2 questions. Speakers are under no obligation to answer, but if you do so, please limit it to 1 minute. Speakers cannot ask questions of councillors or council staff. Are there any conflicts of interest declarations for councillors? Councillor Deputy Mayor Kim Wheatley.
GB 13, I have a non-pecuniary, non-significant interest in. So if I need to leave the room, Mrs Green is talking about that, I'll leave.
Was it GB 13?
13.
Okay, we only have one speaker this evening on GB 12.
Great.
So you can stay. Okay, we'll get straight into the speaker. We only have one this evening, and that is Jill Green. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
Oh, yes, Councillor Ward.
Just seek clarification. I do have a conflict of interest, non-pecuniary, non-financial. However, it's not on the agenda tonight.
That's correct, so you won't need to declare it if it's not on the agenda tonight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have one speaker, and that is on GB 12. That is Jill Green, talking about the draft terms of reference, Environment Committee and Smart Transport Advisory Committee. And she is representing STEP and is speaking neutrally on this subject matter. Jill, would you like to? Yes, you have 3 minutes. All yours.
Oh, good evening, everybody. Pity you've got so many people have to come here for such a short forum. So I'm speaking about the terms of reference for the Environment Advisory Committee that's in GB 12. I was a member of the predecessor Sustainable Recreation Advisory Committee since 2021. And I just want to reflect on some experiences from being on that committee. And I welcome the proposal to broaden the ambit, the functions of the committee to cover the environment, especially with all the new planning policies being imposed by the state government. And I welcome the inclusion of national parks representation, because Ku-ring-gai has so many areas that interface with national parks. I have to say I found the work frustrating on the committee, in the previous committee, and we didn't actually contribute much to actions. The focus was mostly led by staff, explaining the content of plans and policies that were up for revision. I found it hard to envisage what the outcome of these documents would be, as they took such a top-down approach, and they're often updated versions of previous documents. It would be better if the committee would be involved earlier in the process of updating these documents. I'd also like to see a more bottom-up approach, such as the opportunity for members of the committee to propose projects or changes in practices. Maybe members of the public, such as bush carers, could put up proposals directly to committee meetings. Under the previous committee, we did have opportunities to discuss proposals. Back from 2021, we talked about improving connectivity, signage and communication. That's about walking tracks, but very little progress was made. I admit the funding was an issue, and it was during the COVID period, a lot of it. But a lot of the resources went to closing down illegal mountain bike tracks, which a great job was done in closing those down. Offers were made by groups such as the Scouts to do some, the Scout representative on the committee, to do some detailed work on identifying possible new official walking tracks, signposted by the council. STEP suggested some circular routes that would encourage exploring more lesser known areas. The idea was to install more signage. A lot of money was spent on the Rolls-Royce Two Creeks track, but even the signage on this track could be improved. It's hard to follow the right route back up the Little Digger track to Roseville Station. There are many areas suitable for circular walks, such as the Twin Creeks, which is different from Two Creeks. Some magnificent views there, and you could do a great circular walk finishing in Mitchell Parade. So in conclusion, Council has a role to give residents the opportunity to understand, appreciate the amazing biodiversity of Ku-ring-gai, and improving walking tracks is a great way of doing that. We're supposed to have more biodiversity than England, I'm told, so we need to let the people know what they're going to miss if they're not looking after our biodiversity. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jill. We have a question from
I do
Councillor Spencer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have a question, but if you could just, if I could just seek your indulgence where I clarify with the General Manager first, through you. General Manager, I think a couple of years ago, we had that clarified that you can't speak neutrally and you can't speak for and against. You have to speak for or against. And I'm sure my friend who's online there can clarify that, because he was the one that used to speak for and against. And that has been clarified that we are not allowed to either speak. The rules doesn't allow us to speak for both sides, and does not allow us to take a neutral stance. It's either you're for or against. I'm sorry. So if he can clarify that, I have a question for you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't particularly recall that in the past. I don't believe the Code of Meeting Practice in the section on the public forum deals with whether or not you have to say you're for or against. I think the only time it might come into effect would be if there were too many speakers and council wanted to limit the number of speakers, and therefore sometimes council might say you can have 5 speaking for or 5 speaking against, and therefore if there were people saying neutral, that would introduce another category. But it has been the case in recent times that people are genuinely neither for nor against an item, they just want to speak, and so they end up in a bit confused when they're asked to say whether they're for or against. So I think that's why we put down the neutral category. But the corporate lawyer may have something to add to that? No? Yes? Call on Jamie when I'm in trouble there, Councillor Spencer.
Mayor and councillors, to my mind, if you have to separate speakers between for and against, the approach I would use would be, unless someone's entirely in favour of something, then they're against an element of it, so I'd categorise them as against. I think when people are I'm not fully aware of the details, but when people are registering to speak on these occasions, they're invited to indicate whether they're for or against. But I don't think it's been a bar to being able to register if they haven't provided that information. That's right.
Well, General Manager, if I may, the reason for that is quite simple, because regardless whether you have a neutral there just for speakers, so councillors are only allowed to vote for or against. You can't vote neutral. You put your hand up, you're for it. You don't raise your hand, you are against it. Even if the mayor asked who is against it and you leave your hand down, it is a negative vote. So when speakers come to the forum, they are supposed to tell us whether they are for or against. It helps us form, our decision and so on, and how, we're going to debate and how we're going to vote on the day. So if everyone comes in and speaks, neutral, then what's the point of having this forum? Because we can't gauge whether there's more for or more against. Everyone's neutral. So then we don't need their comments, because we'll make our own decision without the speakers, if that makes sense.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I hear what you say, Councillor. I think I'll need to take advice before the next meeting on that issue.
Okay. May I ask Jill the question whether she is mostly for or is she mostly against?
If you wouldn't mind coming back to the lectern, Jill.
So sorry about this, Jill.
If you choose to answer that question.
I expressed my opinion that I thought that the forum was an opportunity to comment on something going before council, which might mean, that some possible changes are made before the document goes before the formal council meeting. Overall I'm for overall I'm for, but I'm not sure if my comments could possibly be reflected in some possible changes in the terms of reference. Yeah.
Thank you.
If it's, yeah.
Okay, Councillor Devlin.
Yeah, just off the back of that, thanks very much, Jill, and my apologies, I don't wish to drag out the semantics any longer. If you were looking for some change to the recommendations, you'd probably be against what's in there. But
Sorry, I couldn't.
if you were looking for any change, you'd probably be against the recommendation. We're hoping for a change. And just off the back of what the corporate lawyer just noted, insofar as unless someone's completely in agreement with something, then they may have some level of disagreement, therefore would otherwise be against, just in the event that the record is updated and tracked. So some feedback can be taken. On that, I just ask if you consider positions about it.
Are there any more questions? Nobody online? Okay, right. Thank you, Jill. Okay, that is the conclusion of our meeting. So thank you to everyone for participating in tonight's public forum. The webcast of this forum will be published to Council's website tomorrow. The Council meeting will be held at 7 p.m. next Tuesday, and you are encouraged to attend in person or view the live web stream via the Council website. I encourage you to continue to stay engaged with Council and share your feedback. Thank you again for your participation, and I declare the meeting closed at 6:16. Thank you.